The Colossus built on mud, money, and unseen bones. Forget the bright lights, the iconic skyline, and the postcard view. You think you know this city, but you don't. You stand on a Manhattan sidewalk, look up at a billion-dollar tower of glass and steel, and what do you see? Progress? Power? Wealth? Before starting the video, I have a small request for all of you. If you are new to my channel, please subscribe and stay connected to watch more videos like this. And if you are watching from Facebook, make sure to follow the page. If you enjoy the video, don't forget to like, comment to let me know your thoughts, and share it with your friends.
The Manhattan bedrock and the ghost of the Dutch Wall. New York is a vertical city, but its story begins horizontally, in the impossibly stubborn geology of Manhattan. The island's spine, the Manhattan Schist, is a billion-year-old metamorphic rock, a bedrock so firm and close to the surface that it became the geological miracle underpinning the world's most famous skyline. Without this dense, reliable stone, the dizzying density of Midtown and Lower Manhattan would be financially, if not physically, impossible. But look down the length of Broadway, and you'll notice something strange. The skyscrapers abruptly thin out between Canal Street and 23rd Street. This is the Midtown Gap, and it's a geological marker more profound than any man-made district line. Below the surface here is not solid schist, but ancient glacial-era deposits of mud, sand, and quicksand, a cost barrier that for decades proved more difficult to penetrate than the sky itself. Building a 100-story tower here requires drilling caissons deep enough to reach that mythical bedrock, an engineering feat so expensive that only the most determined and often reckless barons dared to attempt it. The gaps in the skyline are the visible scars of geological resistance. The earliest architectural obsession, however, wasn't vertical, it was defensive. To understand the brick and glass, you must first understand the wall. In 1653, the tiny, scrappy Dutch settlement of New Amsterdam, barely a few hundred souls, constantly at war with both the local Lenape tribes and the encroaching English, faced a threat from New England. Governor Peter Stuyvesant, the peg-legged autocrat, ordered the construction of a simple but crucial barrier, a palisade of logs and earth across the island's narrow width. This crude barrier, built not by paid laborers, but by the enslaved African population of New Amsterdam, stretched from the North River, the Hudson, to the East River. It was a functional, defensive structure, and in the 1690s, the palisade was replaced by a proper stone wall. When the need for the wall faded, the road that ran alongside it, the one that defined the northern edge of the burgeoning city, kept the name, Wall Street. This street, now the undisputed global epicenter of finance, began as a line of defense against an unknown future. Its very width and trajectory are dictated by a forgotten defensive structure. The great financial institutions like the New York Stock Exchange, NYSE, and the former headquarters of J.P. Morgan aren't just built near Wall Street. Their location is an echo of the first desperate attempt to define and defend a space on the island. The NYSE itself sits on a site that was once a small collection of buildings, and the powerful financiers who congregated there were simply following a path carved out by a centuries-old defensive line. The entire concept of American financial power rests on a humble, forgotten wall.
The Cathedral of Commerce and the secret tunnels. The true genesis of the skyscraper, the architectural form that would define New York to the world, can be traced not to raw ambition, but to a five-and-dime merchant named Frank Winfield Woolworth. Woolworth, a man who built his empire on selling cheap goods for 5 and 10 cents, harbored a singular private obsession to possess the world's tallest building. In the early 1910s, he commissioned the architect Cass Gilbert to design his corporate headquarters. The result was the Woolworth Building, completed in 1913. At 792 feet, it eclipsed all rivals and instantly became the world's tallest structure, earning the nickname the Cathedral of Commerce. The story of the Woolworth Building is one of architectural deception and a deep, almost religious belief in commerce. Gilbert cloaked the steel skeleton skyscraper, a radically modern American invention, in the trappings of European Gothic architecture, complete with flying buttresses, gargoyles, and ornate terracotta cladding. This was a direct appeal to the American Gilded Age elite, who valued European classicism over raw modernity. The most extraordinary secrets of the building are hidden deep inside and out of sight. Firstly, the stunning self-supporting lobby ceiling, a vaulted mosaic masterpiece, hides a deeper meaning. Look closely at the sculpted gargoyles above the entrance arches. They are not medieval demons. One is a sculptor holding a miniature model of the building, a tribute to the architect Cass Gilbert. The other, and more famous, is a caricature of F.W. Woolworth himself, counting pennies. A knowing wink to the humble origins of the tower's funding. The greatest building of its time was built by a man whose gargoyle mocks his own cheapskate reputation. Secondly, and perhaps most surprisingly, the Woolworth Building was once home to a hidden, high-end swimming pool. Located in the sub-basement, this elaborate marble and tile pool, complete with Turkish baths, was intended for the wealthy tenants and executives. It was a secret urban oasis, a luxury amenity so exclusive that it has largely faded from common memory. The pool was eventually covered and used for storage, but the whispers of the hidden bathhouse, a subterranean counterpoint to the towering ambition, remain. Finally, and most sensationally, the Woolworth Building was one of the key nodes in a sprawling private network of secret tunnels that crisscrossed Lower Manhattan. These tunnels, originally designed to house utility lines and steam pipes, also served a more clandestine function for the elite of the financial district, providing access to private dining clubs, banks, and even the now demolished Hudson Terminal, a massive railway complex. The Cathedral of Commerce was literally a gateway into a secret, insulated underworld of power.
The unthinkable race, Chrysler versus Empire State. The Roaring '20s were not just about jazz and prohibition, they were the decade of the American architectural ego. The race to build the world's tallest building became a frantic, winner-take-all obsession that drove men to acts of secrecy, spite, and stunning engineering brinkmanship. The ultimate battle was waged between two rivals, Walter Chrysler and John J. Raskob. The Chrysler Building, 1930, the Spire of Secret Vengeance. Walter P. Chrysler, the automobile magnate, wanted a monument to himself and his industry. His architect, William Van Allen, designed a skyscraper that was a masterpiece of Art Deco. The gleaming hubcaps, radiator caps, and streamlined eagles that adorn the exterior are all direct tributes to the 1920s American automobile. The most famous part of the building, however, was the 185-foot stainless steel spire. This spire was not originally part of the plans submitted to the city. It was a secret weapon, conceived and built entirely within the building's upper shaft. Van Allen knew that a competing building, 40 Wall Street, designed by his former partner, H. Craig Severance, who had an intensely bitter rivalry with Van Allen, was racing toward completion and planned to claim the title of the world's tallest. Van Allen was determined to humiliate him. The spire, comprising 5 sections of Neurosta stainless steel, was secretly assembled in the 67th floor of the Chrysler Building. On October 16, 1929, as construction workers watched in disbelief, the massive needle was hoisted through the open top of the building by a crane and fixed into place in a shocking 90-minute operation. It was a spectacular coup de grace. Suddenly, the Chrysler Building was 1,046 feet tall, undeniably the tallest structure on Earth, crushing Severance's hopes and making Van Allen a momentary legend. The Empire State Building, 1931, the dirigible disaster. John J. Raskob, a former General Motors executive, was furious. Not only had he been beaten by his former colleague Chrysler, but he was committed to building a structure that would definitively reclaim the title for New York's elite. Raskob famously asked his architect, "How high can you make it so that it won't fall down?" The answer, it turned out, was 1,250 feet. The building, designed by Shreve, Lamb, and Harmon, was constructed at a breakneck speed during the deepest depths of the Great Depression. The famous statistic that it was built in only 410 days is an astonishing testament to human efficiency driven by a desperate need for work. But the speed of construction hid a catastrophic folly. Raskob knew the tower needed something extra to beat Chrysler even after topping out at the initial 1,050 feet. His grand idea was utterly insane: an extra 200-foot mooring mast for transatlantic passenger dirigibles, blimps. The plan was to have passengers disembark from a blimp and walk down a gangplank to the 102nd floor observation deck. This was less an architectural plan than a delusion of grandeur. The first and only attempt to moor a blimp to the mast proved the utter lunacy of the idea. The winds at 1,200 feet were so fierce and turbulent that the mast was an impossible mooring point. Furthermore, the heat and smoke rising from the city made the approach a literal death trap. A passenger would have to leap from the blimp's gondola hundreds of feet above the street and fight hurricane-force winds to reach the safety of the observation deck. The grand mooring mast was an embarrassing failure, a monument to a future that never arrived. It was quickly repurposed into a television transmission tower, but to this day it stands as a testament to the fact that even New York's most iconic structure contains a stunning, multi-million-dollar mistake, a folly of steel and glass built on the delusion of high-altitude air travel. The tower was only truly completed once its builders admitted the folly of its spire's purpose.